Welcome to, I think, number 11, 12, 13, something like 11. I don't know what we're at, something like that. Welcome back to Sight or Kesher. Look, we've got these, I don't know if you've noticed this, those who are eagle-eyed, you see we've got these like logoed, starting to get a little bit logoed here. So we're back, and we are going to do today, we're going to carry on from where we left off last time. And today we're going to talk about humanity's change after Adam's original sin and the additional workload that makes for us, okay? And how life and death have become a thing in our lives, which wasn't there for Adam. That's what we're going to do. So come and join us. And we're on Sefer Derech Hashem, the way of God. We're in section 1, chapter 1. That's section 1, chapter 1. We're about to start point 8. Okay, what did we do last time? If this is your first time jumping in, who is this guy? What are you doing? I'm Rabbi Mordechai Goodman of Jewish Education in Manchester, and I'm here with Sight Or and Kesher, doing our Derech Hashem, the way of God, elucidated and explained for you. And we're going to be going through the whole Sefer, as much of it as we can, God willing, if we can. And now the Sefer is split into 4 sections: the Creator, His interface system, spirituality, and the content of commandments. And we're now really tucking into the first section. And we're going to start discussing what happened after Adam sinned. So prior, if you're just joining us for this one, might be a good idea to go back to the previous one to start talking about what was going on with the tussle between body and soul with Adam and what the good and bad was that he had to interface with in the Garden of Eden. And now what we're going to do is talk about, well, that's done. He's made the bad decision. He's eaten of the Eitz Taivara. He's eaten of the fruit of knowledge of the tree of good and evil prior to when he was meant to have it, which was going to be on Shabbos. He was meant to have it for the Sabbath. And that'd be perfectly permitted then, but he couldn't wait 3 hours, and he jumped the gun, and his taste buds got the better of him. It's more than that. It was a very noble idea to be able to say, I'm going to go against God's will so that I can create my own worlds in my own image, just like God did. Which was still wrong, because God told him not to. Doesn't matter how you cut it, God still said no, even though it's very good reasons. He had very good reasons of eating it. He was wrong in the fact that he put his own intellectual understanding beyond God's. And God's cleverer than us. That was a mistake. So now let's talk about what happened now that he has sinned. Page 51.8. When Adam sinned, however, things were greatly changed, both in himself and his environment, as we discussed last time. The amount of evil that existed initially was just enough to assure that man would be in a perfect balance. Remember we talked about body and soul needing bechira for justificational purposes, just enough to put in there, to inject it in just the exact amount, allowing him to gain perfection through his own efforts, that he feels comfortable and justified in getting the good that he's got because he had to overcome some kind of challenge. Remember, money that you get for a job is better than money you get as charity, even if it's the same amount of money. You don't feel the same about it. You feel much better about money you've earned than money you've been doled out. And God wants to give you the best possible payment, which means he wants you to feel as if you've earned it. Why doesn't he just make you feel as if you've earned it and he doles it out? Because that wouldn't be complete truth. And he's complete truth. You can't get through to complete truth via a lie. It's got to be bang on. When man sinned, he caused evil to increase both in himself, his psyche, his body, the physical material of his body, and in all creation. Man's choice unbalanced creation to a more intrinsically evil state. As a result, it became much more difficult for him to attain the perfection that God had intended for him. At first, it was very easy to overcome his natural faults and attain perfection. The highest wisdom had arranged things in the best and fairest manner. The only reason why evil and deficiency existed in man at all was to make it part of his nature, something he would willfully abandon in favour of good. He had a tremendous desire to eat of this fruit. Why put that there? So that he could overcome it, should he so wish. So that he could become rewardable and payable for that effort. There's no reward without effort. That's the way this is. It's a Jewish concept. Whether or not you accept, whether you believe it doesn't, that's what Judaism says. You're not here to be convinced of anything by me. I'm not here to convince, preach, or convert, or anything. That's not what I'm doing. I'm here merely to clearly relate and elucidate what the Torah is saying about the state of affairs of things. Whether or not you accept it or believe it, it's none of my business. But what you should do is know it clearly so that you can make informed decisions. How can you make an informed decision about Torah Judaism if you don't know what Torah Judaism really is and what it says? You can't make an informed decision because you don't really know. I'm not here to try to convince you of anything. You don't agree with it, you don't agree with it. This is what the Torah says. This is its view of things. So what was happening was that mankind was created with a perfect balance to allow that bechira tussle, that free will volition tussle, so that it could feel justified in getting the good that God wants to give to it, which is him. Why has it got to be him? Any other good he would give is deficient. He's the best that he could give. So he can't give anything else but him. If he gives you something that isn't him, he's failing you. I give you a boat and an island. Upkeep costs, insurance costs, careening fees. There's refuel fees. Tens of thousands of pounds it is to refuel a yacht with marine grade diesel. It's not cheap. That's a liability. There's no liability in closeness to God. Nothing goes wrong. That's the ultimate thing he could give. So that's what he wants to give. You can't just have it because that's not the ultimate giving. You've got to earn it by rights. Well, you feel totally justified. When man sinned, he put big barriers in the way of earning that justification. I'm going off, I'll give you an analogy. This is my going off bell. Going off, okay? When I hit it again, I come back. Let's pretend there's two plasticine balls, a black ball and a white ball. And God says, avoid the black ball and pick the white ball. So, fine, I've got these two plasticine. Why am I doing this? I don't know. Black ball, who cares? This is just the task that's been handed me. Imagine like a laboratory animal, and there's a scientist doing an experiment. God is not a scientist doing an experiment. There's nothing he can learn. There's no material he's not bored. He can't learn anything. He can't derive any new knowledge. I'm just using this as an analogy. So the test is pick the black, avoid the pick the white, avoid the black, right? When man sinned, he smudged those two plasticine balls together like a Venn diagram. Now the very edge of those plasticine balls are still black and white. Black is like killing someone for no reason, and white is doing acts of loving kindness. These are obvious. These are obvious even to the human psyche that one is bad and one is good, based upon the concepts that God has put into the human mind as to what is good and bad. Obviously, real good and bad, we don't know why it's bad to kill people. Who says that? Animals do it all the time. So the lions aren't evil for killing zebra. But for us, that's morally incorrect because God has said so for reasons only known to him. You could sociologically try to argue that through, but actually there's no answer as to why it's not okay just to find someone. Julius Caesar wrote in his diary he liked nothing more than finding old geriatric men walking about in Rome and kicking them to death for a laugh. His mates used to go and do it. Loads of fun. What do you need them for? They're old anyway. So for him, that was a good thing to do. Real good and bad, real morality is only the province of God. Only he can say that because humans pick their morality as they go with whatever social mores are happening. You could say that in 20, 30 years it'd be fine to murder someone. Certainly the Aztecs used to do it for fun. Used to murder people and use their heads for football games. That was a good thing. It was seen as a good thing. Who are you to argue? From your moral position saying that Britain or America knows better? Oh, nonsense. Changes over the years. Only God can say, I'm telling you this is forbidden. Only he has that authority. We don't pick morality. He tells us what he held as moral, and he gives that over as a rule set. Certain things to us make a lot of sense. Okay, like killing people for no reason. And doing acts of kindness seems to be good. But I've got news for you. The majority of those black and white plasticine balls are now grey. We don't even know what the truth is. If this is a pot of meat boiling on a stove and some milk spritzes on the side of it, we have a question in kashrus what to do. The hot milk now may go through the wall of the hot pot, known as bleus absorptions, and infect, for want of a better word, the meat in the pot. Now, it depends whether or not the milk hit above the food line or below the food line. If it hit above the food line, we may be able to take the pot off the heat and pour it out, avoiding that splat of milk on the side, because meat and milk, the mixture is prohibited in Torah law. So maybe we could pour it out that way. The question is, what's the status of the pot? Does the pot need kushering? We need to fix that up. And is the food inside of it permitted or not? What you have to do there is phone a Rav who's expert in these laws and ascertain the truth. Now, if he says the food is going to be fine, but the pot needs work, we need to fix up that pot, you now have a Yetzer Hara that you couldn't be bothered to do that because there's a lot of hard work to kasher a pot. Here's what I'm telling you. The black plasticine and the white plasticine never changes. The black is bad, the white is good in this particular analogy, okay? When it became grey, God didn't say, do something with the grey. He just says, pick the white, avoid the black. Which means you get a pair of tweezers and a microscope, and you have to pick apart the grey and white plasticine first. And then you've got the same thing that Adam had, which is to avoid the bad and do the good. That's double the workload. That's double the workload. The first thing you have to do is ascertain truth. Then we've got the same thing that Adam had, is to pick the good and avoid the bad with our internal Yetzer Hara. But now we've got a Yetzer Hara that says, I couldn't even bother to learn. I don't want to phone the Rov, and I don't want to look it up in Shulchan Aruch, and I couldn't be bothered to go through all the work to be able to ascertain the truth. That's an entropy, a dropping down of a level, an energy level, where we're now double workloaded. One is ascertain the truth, and two is comply. Adam only had the compliance issue. Will he comply? We now have the gain clarity on what to comply with, and then comply. He made that hard for us. We are now at a distinct disadvantage as an outcome of his original choice. He has made things unclear, obscured, occluded, occult, clouded over, because I don't know what the law actually is properly. And when I've worked hard to ascertain the clarity of the law, which may take significant effort, then I have to comply with it, like whatever it says. Adam didn't have that. God said, you see that tree over there? Yeah. That's the one I don't need to eat from. There's no cloud. Could you imagine God would have given him a riddle? That would have been amazing. So God says, there's a tree beginning with P. Somewhere you'll find it. Where will it be? And it's like, what? And then so what tree? What begins with P? Where would it be? I don't know. Find the naughty tree and avoid it. It was never like that. It was super clear to him what he had to do. All he had to do was find it. He knew what that tree was. Avoid eating of that fruit. Us, we're now in riddle zone. We don't even know what the truth is. We have to ascertain that. Then we have to comply. By simply disassociating himself from deficiencies, his desire to eat of the fruit in both himself and the world, the first man was supposed to bring about the necessary perfection immediately. No additional effort will be required. When Adam sinned, he personally caused a concealment of perfection and an increase of evil. Man himself was now responsible for the greater amount of evil that existed in him. You can't say, well, before I had the evil that was in me to desire this fruit. Yeah, that's how you were built. That's not your fault. I put that in there for something for you to overcome. Now that he's failed by eating that fruit, the desire has been increased because of his choice, and he's culpable for that additional desire. You're the one that fell into that, making this worse. You started the addiction. Yes, the content of the addiction was out there. I'm not going to hold you culpable for that. But when you decided to start the addiction, and more than anything else, the eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge was a substance abuse. He abused a substance in order to try to have a trip. The snake said to the woman, if you eat of this, it will give you the power to be able to know God, knowing good and bad, which we told last time was a complete lie. God doesn't function in good and bad. He's a drug dealer peddling a prescribed substance. He's got to sell you something. Just to prove this, if you're in a club, some guy comes up to you for 15, 20 pounds and offers you a pill. Says, take this, you're going to have an unbelievable experience. If he said to you, it will change your mind forever and you'll never come back to the way that you are now, you'd probably think twice than rather having 3 hours of fun. Because if you know it's going to rewire your brain and you're never going to be normal again, you might start to think, I don't know, that's right. That's proof positive that you know that your consciousness now is better than what any drug would give you. Otherwise, you'd go for it. Eve, or Isha, woman at that stage, genuinely thought that what this drug would do for her would change her mind for better forever. She didn't think it would be a trip. It would be a permanent change from this particular medicine or material drug that he's offering her. That was a terrible, terrible problem. So substance abuse is core to human desires now. And notice kashrus, eating, is also part of that. The dietary laws. Now that she took the drug and he took the drug, you're responsible for the beginning of the addiction yourself. The desire for addiction I put in there because I've got to make the system run. But the actual addiction is your fault. You're the one that allowed yourself to fall into that. The concept that all addicts are blame-free is false, according to the Torah, unless they've been force-fed by someone else with an injection in a labour camp or something. I'm not talking about that. If you go out and buy drugs and you say it's not my fault, it is your fault, you're the one doing it, and you're culpable. Now, the desire to have a drug to start with before you've taken it, that's not your fault. That's been implanted for you to overcome it. But if you succumb to it and you drive yourself in that direction, you are 100% culpable. You've got to stop. You've got to stop that addiction. If you smoke, stop smoking. It's your job to stop smoking. The desire to feel good was in there. Now that you're a smoker, you've brought that addiction on yourself. And every time you smoke, you're culpable for the damage you do to your body. You can't, it's not my fault. It's a tobacco company's fault. That's what Adam said. It's not my fault. It's her fault. She tricked me. And she said, it's not my fault. He tricked me. The snake tricked me. God wasn't playing with any of it. He's like, no, it's your fault. The buck stops with your actions, which is why Judaism is not a particularly popular religion. Because we don't pass or scapegoat our faults onto other peoples or religions. Other religions do that to the Jews. We say, if I've done something wrong, it's on me. Nobody likes that. That's not a recipe for a popular religious missionary protocol. You know, you can't go around saying all the problems in the world are down to you. Yeah, it's down to you. It's on you. You fix them. It's now much more difficult for man to abandon these problems. And Adam could no longer earn perfection as easily as when he personally bore no responsibility for the deficiency of wanting the fruit. Highlight or underline if you've got the text. The effort required to earn perfection was therefore doubled. That's the idea of the black and white plasticine balls, or the idea that, first of all, you've got to ascertain the law and then comply with it. Adam never had to ascertain the law. He just had to comply. Man must first bring both himself and the world back to the state in which they existed before the first sin, i.e. clarity over the law. That's level one. Know what you're meant to be doing. And only then can he do the second level, which is raise himself from that state to his destined level of perfection by complying with what he knows to be true. It wasn't like that before the sin. Only required compliance. Comprehension is no prerequisite for compliance. He didn't have to know why God told him not to eat at Eitzdas. He had to comply. His problem actually came when he tried to comprehend it too much. He tried to outsmart God. Now we've got two levels of comprehension. One is comprehend the law. Now you want to comprehend something? Comprehend the law. Work at that. Then the compliance with the law is not based upon that comprehension. You comprehend that you're not allowed to eat pork as a Jew, right? In most circumstances. That's the law. Why am I not allowed to eat pork? None of your business. Because now you're back to Adam before the sin. You don't have to comprehend why. You have to be able to know that pork is osser. Now, it could be that you're forbidden. It could be that you've never known that pork is forbidden. And you think Jews are fine to eat pork because all the Jews you know eat pork. That's not true. When you learn the laws of the Torah, you'll see that pigs are prohibited creatures along with bears and with camels and ravens and things like that. There's lots of creatures we can't eat. There are lots of signs and laws anatomically that we have to know about creatures to figure out whether or not they're kosher or not. If the laws and those signs anatomically affect a particular creature in such a way that creature is now prescribed, now you know that creature cannot be eaten by you under regular circumstances in like regular daily activities. To save a life is different. Why did God say you can't eat ravens? None of your business. Do you know which creatures God said? Yes, I know the laws anatomically. If there's 3 toes of the creature, of the bird going forward and 1 going back, that's a sign of kashrus. If there's 2 going forward and 2 going back, that's a sign of trephus. You can't have that. Owls, you can't eat owls. And there's all kinds of reasons why you can't. Great. Can you tell me why God said a camel is not kosher? There's lots of discussion on this from the rabbis and really, we don't know. And frankly, it's not your business. There's lots of things to discuss. There are lots of beautiful reasons as to why camel, etc. But frankly, the absolute deep Kabbalistic concept behind it is beyond us. What we do know is that camels are treif. You can't eat them. But I have to get to know that first. Adam didn't. I had to learn that from the Chumash. I had to find that out from somewhere. Besides this, justice decreed that neither man nor the world will ever be able to rise to perfection while in their current fallen state. We said that when Adam sinned, not only did he lower himself, but the environment had to go down as well. creatures, the world, atoms, structure of atoms, everything had to change to keep Bechira proper. That means there's got to be a process to clean things up. We're going to have to restore both humanity and the environment set for it before God can give of his good to another. This is an interim stage which would not have existed had Adam not have sinned. However, now that he did sin, and he's brought negativity to himself and the world at large, that negativity, evil, distance from God, evil is distant from God, has to be purged in himself and the world. This is an interim stage that is a now unfortunate reality as an outcome of Adam's sin. And it's that stage of restoration and cleaning that we'll start to discuss next time. I look forward to having you join us then. And please God, we'll continue as we go. Any questions, you can submit them. Happy to do an anonymous Q&A. If you don't want to give your name, that's absolutely fine. And please God, we'll continue next time. Thank you so much for taking out the time to join us.